just go slow, do it right the first time and get all the way through it. And that will feel like it was quick. It feels choppy when you get through a quote, you present a price and you got to go back and put a VIN number in. You got to go back and add another driver, and you're going back and forth, and you can tend to get lost because you're on the phone with them and time's ticking and you're stressed and you're going to lose things. So just take a deep breath, go slow, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And it seems like it was done quickly and professionally when you do it that way or when you think about it that way.
Got questions, we bring the facts. From proven pros who walk the tracks. Business life, no smoke, just flames. Ask the experts, David Williams brings the game.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Ask the Experts, the podcast where agency owners, producers, and entrepreneurs learn the strategies that turn big goals into bigger results. Today's guest is Josh Linderman, former Army airborne soldier, founder of the Linderman Agency, which, by the way, rocketed from 0 to 8 million in premium in just 29 months, and co-owner of Easy Mail, a direct mail powerhouse that feeds insurance agent consistent, high intent leads. Pretty amazing to look into the fact that Josh has built his companies on grit, the principles of extreme ownership, and a faith-first mindset. He now mentors a nationwide team of high-performing sales pros, helping them level up not only in business, but also in life. So today we're going to unpack the tactics behind his lightning-fast growth, why direct mail still crushes it in a highly digital world, and how faith and no-excuse leadership fuels a culture of unstoppable execution. So Josh, man, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to be with us and spread some value, and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Yeah, man. I'm happy to be here. Excited. It's going good.
Good. It's awesome to have you. And one of the things we like to do before we kind of dive into your expertise is just to understand the journey. You know, do you mind taking us back, maybe even long before the insurance days, maybe even to the point when you were, just joining the military, and kind of walk through just your early days and, what those first days look like in your days as a soldier and as a leader in that sense, but also your transition into business. So very interested to dig in and understand that transition for you and what landed you in the insurance space.
Yeah. So, I graduated high school in 2010. Knew that I didn't love college. I feel like that's a lot of people's story. Knew I didn't love college. I didn't love school. I didn't love to study. And so I quickly jumped to the Army. And I was like, the Army can offer me a better life and give me some direction, give me a sense of purpose. And so I joined quickly out of high school, but I was in like a delayed entry program for a while. So I ended up actually getting to the Army at about 20 instead of 18 years old. And so did all my basic training, went to airborne school, got to my duty station, and it was not what I expected. I'll say that. I was around a bunch of great leaders, a lot of Rangers, and I had no idea really what I was doing. I just knew that I didn't want to be in Georgia anymore, stuck, and I wanted to see the world. And the Army taught me a lot about ownership, a lot about taking responsibility. And again, it gave me a sense of purpose. And so I knew I didn't want to spend a lot of time there though, because I wanted a family, and the divorce rate in the Army, or really in the military, is sky high. And I was like, man, I don't want to be here for very long. I don't love the culture. It's a faithless culture. Particularly the infantry guys. I love those guys, but a lot of them, you hear some crazy things. And as a Christian, I'm like, man, I can't get down with this forever. So I get out of there. And one of my buddies, 2015, one of my buddies had a farmer's agency. And so he was doing well at the time. And he was like, man, you should really jump in with us. It's sales. I think you'll like it. And I was like, okay, cool. So I did. And we took his agency from, he wasn't struggling. He just didn't have any staff. But we took his agency from a normal, small scratch agency to number one in the nation in 2017. I'm sorry, number one in the state of Georgia, 2017. 2018, we jumped to number one in the nation, which is where I was number 4 producer in the nation as well. I sat next to the #1 girl in the nation as well. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And I quickly realized, man, you know what? I like to teach, and I kind of know what I'm doing here. So I jumped into agency ownership on my own.
Wow, man, that's an incredible story. And I love that you did the role first. So you've been there in the trenches, you know what it takes to be that high level of production. Knowing that you have that in you and you've done the job and you've figured out how to do it at the highest levels, where do you typically see like your advice flowing when you're bringing in new team members and you're trying to frame them up to be highly successful, right? You're trying to set the table so that they can come in and have a life-altering career with you. What are some of the lessons that you learned in, becoming a top performer like that are kind of staples in the way that you teach new team members? Like these are the maybe top 2 or 3 principles that are going to get you to that next level, whether it be mental, whether it be a action or activity based level thing, or whether it be an approach thing. I'd be super curious what you're telling your team, even today, based on that experience.
So if I have somebody green with no sales experience and no insurance experience, I quickly push them to books. That was where I got most of my sales training were books. So the 2 that I push would be both by Grant Cardone. Love him or hate him, he tends to know what he's talking about when it comes to sales. So first book I read, which really shifted my mindset from a victim mindset to a growth or responsibility mindset, was the 10X rule. So 10X rule took me from ground level to level 1. And then from level 1 to 2 was Grant Cardone again, sell or be sold. And so that's where I tell everybody to start. I'm like, start there. You're either selling or you're being sold to. And as soon as you can understand that you're always selling, then things will start to click, and they just have to have an open mindset to taking responsibility and then just always going for the close, and always realizing that you're selling yourself, not just a product.
100%. I remember listening to the 10X rule for like the 3rd time in a row on audio. My wife and I were driving back from a little getaway, just had it playing on repeat. And then I got into sell or be sold. And, I took a little different route. When I listened to those, I was like, I want to go work for this guy. So I drove down to his office in 2016 and asked for a job. And to my surprise, within 4 days, I got the green light and moved the family from New York to Florida. And I worked with him for 3.5 years on his sales team.
Wow.
And got to like see what that looked like in action. And the thing that I realized was I thought the success you'd see in his company was just because, of course, we're at the headquarters of the guy himself. Like that's why everybody here is winning. But then I started to realize, actually, if you take these principles and you go to this level of work ethic and process, you can go into any business in America and execute at that level and find success. Like that's how I found myself in the insurance space, was lining up with David, the normal host of this show. And at the time he was running a $20+ million Allstate and instilling the 10X mentality into his team. And I came in to help with that. So I could definitely relate in a very deep way, and would love some time to chat with your team too. It'd be really fun to get together with them and share some war stories. But one of the things I was reading about, you said that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? And that's a tried and true phrase, but I don't think anybody really recently breaks that down. We say it, right? But it looks like that's something that you actually put into practice on your sales floor. And I'd love if you could just give some examples of kind of how that mantra is integrated into your agency culture.
Yeah. So I learned that in the Army. I was airborne and I was attached to an infantry company, and we're doing a stress shoot, a live fire. And I'm having to drop my mag and reload another one as fast as I can. And I'm stumbling and fumbling, and I can't get the mag in the gun. And one of my leaders came over, and he's like, he shows me a thing and he tells me, hey, slow, smooth is fast, especially in a high stress environment like what we're in right now. And that stuck with me. And so what I really tell my salespeople, especially whenever they're just learning the new system, and we have processes and systems, and we're always going for the one call close. We don't quote off the phone. And so that can be new to some people. And I tell them hey, look, slow is smooth is fast. When you're on the phone with them, they can't see what you're doing. So just go slow, do it right the first time, and get all the way through it. And that will feel like it was quick. It feels choppy when you get through a quote, you present a price, and you got to go back and put a VIN number in. You got to go back and add another driver, and you're going back and forth, and you can tend to get lost because you're on the phone with them, and time's ticking, and you're stressed, and you're going to lose things. So just take a deep breath, go slow, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and it seems like it was done quickly and professionally when you do it that way, or when you think about it that way. So that's I mainly preach that to my new sales reps.
I love that. I think anybody listening, right? That's something you can execute on immediately, and it's such a good point. And it also makes me think of all the automation that is available today as well, and the areas where, you know, sometimes like taking 2 steps backward to automate something or building a new process that's going to make the team's life easier or help smoothen the steps. Like, yeah, it's work up front to get it done, but like there's an automation in our business that I've been holding off on for far too long. Sit down, took me 2 hours to knock it out. Was it hard work? Yeah. But now it's going to save me 30 minutes a day for the next year. So It's like sometimes that one step backwards to like optimize and be like, and in a sales process, like you're talking about, where can I gather this information up front? Or even I'm sure in the sales strategy itself, like I can skip over building value. I can pitch price, and we can end up at the end of this thing fighting over a price point. Or I can do the right thing and start to build in value points and intention early on in the call. So I see where that can translate into a lot of things, the procedural stuff, but also like the psychological stuff when you're walking through a sales process. Now, one of the things I want to dive into is direct mail, because I know you've got easy mail and it's something that you've made work. And you'll see agencies that just up and give up on it. It's dead. It doesn't work anymore. And then you'll find an agent in the same state, in the same city, who's number one on the leaderboard, and that's their sole strategy. So it's interesting because we know it works. It's just a matter of execution. And I'd be curious what your, what your sort of overall strategy is when it comes to direct mail. If it's a very, set procedure where it's like, well, we pick these zip codes and we have this type of a drop and we have this creative process, or what you kind of recommend in terms of like looking at the direct mail space a little bit differently from most.
Yeah. So surprisingly, direct mail is not like my number one lead source. Like, yeah, I own the company and I co-own it with Ryan Cheo. And so it's just in Georgia, it's a really, really competitive market. It's very saturated. And so we look at mail like, we look at it in a way where you have to, when you're going to run a mail campaign, it's all about, especially in the beginning, it's all about response rate. So your highest close ratio zip codes for an internet data campaign aren't going to be your best, might not be your best zip codes for mail. Again, it's all about response rate. So starting out, you have to kind of blast it everywhere. And then you're going to probably operate in the red for a month from it until you start to really analyze the data, understand, okay, I'm getting a higher response in this zip code. Wow, we've never quoted in this one. And then you double down on that and you keep getting responses. And our job is to tee it up for you. We can't close the business for you, but we can help you make data-driven decisions by the longer that you stay in a mail campaign. I would say it takes at least 90 days to really understand the data and where you should be and where you shouldn't be. And you've got to fire the zip codes that you're not getting a response from. You got to fire them fast and then double down on the ones that you are getting a response from, and then close the deal, close the door whenever they call in.
Awesome. And what's creatively, do you do a bunch of split testing where you'll try 10 different creative variations? This one's purple, this one's blue, this one has a guy on it, this one has a girl.
So and then Ryan and I we're always trying different products. And usually about every 90 days, we're trying a different product. And what we'll do is him and I will send to the exact same people, but we'll flip the weeks. So like, his week 1 is my week 4, and we'll kind of cross that way, and we can get a true, what I would say is a true A/B test from doing it that way. And we usually have like the exact same results. So
oh wow,
it's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you split up different phone numbers based on different zip codes or creative to track where they specifically hit the most?
Yes, not per zip code.
Okay.
We'll do per product. So I'm not against splitting it up per zip code and or having, one area code for these 10 zip codes. In Georgia, it's kind of like we all know our area codes. There's only 10, maybe there's more now because Georgia's growing, but we don't split it up. We'll split it up mainly by product, not necessarily by area code or zip code.
That makes sense. Okay. Yep. And when you kind of look at a whole, like your calling procedures and the things that are coupled up with direct mail, do you have a specific cadence where you expect your team to make a certain number of touch points on the people that you've direct mailed? And are you kind of cross-pollinating them to try to hit them, like a multi-prong approach? Or is it like, no, like that's our direct mail base, and like, but my team calls these people and we double up and we hit two groups of people? Like, are you layering?
So I don't trust any of the phone numbers that come with the data. It's usually just really old, like landlines that you're not going to get an answer. So we don't call on any of the data. We just let them call in. And then, we're making sure that we work the heck out of that lead, because it's generally the most expensive call that we have that can come in. So we make sure that, hey, we're following up properly. We're asking for the sale. We're going for the one call close. We're always going to bundle. It's got 100% bundle ratio. So we're always trying to squeeze it for everything that it has, because they're generally expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I appreciate you saying about the dirtiness of the data. I've definitely met with some agents that for some reason or another, they're convinced that they could just get their hands on the phone numbers associated with the mailer list. It's their infinite lead source. And it's like,
No, it's not. It's not.
Not always. So in your early days, right? Like when you're looking at going from 0 to 8 million, there's a game of cash flow to be played as well, right? And like, you've got to figure out how to, hire that new person, cover their payroll and their commission, and have enough left over to like fuel the thing, let alone if you're taking a paycheck out of the thing for who knows how many months or years. So if you were to give advice to like an agent who's maybe in their first month, they just opened their first agency and they have no idea how to allocate what cash is coming into the business, what sort of guidance would you give on sort of just the cash flow game early on, and how to play it in a way in which you can maybe have some painful months or years, but it's so that you can actually scale and not go bankrupt or not end up in a plateau where you have no money to fund your next growth spurt?
Well, first, let me just say, I don't have all the answers. What I would do though, if I had to say start over, you just have to, in my head, it's all a math problem. And I have to just figure out what the math is behind it for me to be able to afford my staff and my marketing plan and any of my other overhead. And then how much do I want to make? How much do I want to profit after that? So once I figure out what that looks like, what the math is on that, then I'm just taking bites out of the math problem every single day and continuing to try to kick the ball down the field until we get to whatever our goal is. So that's what I would say is the first process would just be, what's the math look like? And then let's start doing the math every single day.
Cool. That's super helpful. And something I also want to try to picture is when stuff doesn't go right. Because like, even for the top agencies in the country, like there's going to be times in their month and their year when things just aren't going as planned. Maybe, where we missed a goal, production's down, maybe the phones aren't lighting up as heavy, a marketing campaign goes sideways. And there is a point where it starts to eat into like team morale. You can get sort of a tone in the business of like a heaviness, and everyone's stressed out and bleeding from their eyeballs. Very different from when everyone's crushing it and hitting PRs and take off early on a Friday and go golfing. We had such a crazy week. It's just two different worlds. So curious, like the darker side of the business, right? When you've got to take extreme ownership in the business and not point the finger, but you also at the same time have to lead and get your team on a positive chime and headed in the right direction. Like what is a typical 60 to 90 minute exercise look like for you? If you wake up one day and you're like, something has to change and I got to get my team to change with me. How do you execute on that typically?
Yeah. So anytime that we're struggling, the first thing that I always look at is like you said, just back to myself. And I'm like, am I working hard? Am I working hard on the business or am I working hard in the business? I've noticed that if I ever get comfortable or I start to get lazy, or I'm just tired, we tend to go down. And I'm like, okay, that's what did I do? Am I not working hard anymore? Okay, if I'm not, get back to it. Find something and dive back in and start working on the business. And then secondly, I would say it's not necessarily if we have a bad month or a bad week, it might not be what did we do wrong. It's usually what did I miss? What did I not do? So did I not look at my zip codes? Did I not hold my sales team accountable? Did I not pull enough calls to coach them? What am I not doing that's really holding us back? So those are that'd be like my first 90 minutes of, okay, let's get this thing figured out. Once I can pinpoint it, I start taking action immediately and I don't delay it so that we can get the ship steered back in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I heard the word I in there a bunch, which is that ownership piece, right? What can I do different? Am I working hard enough? What did I not do? And so that's great, because as a team member, right, if you came in, it was like, you guys are screwing up, you guys have dropped the ball, this or that. It's like, no, buck stops with you. And I love that you're like, hey, I notice when my tonality changes, the whole business goes down. And we always say, it definitely starts at the top and it trickles down from there. So I'm definitely with that. And from the, military days and you being in the Army at such a high level and dealing in a world where there also has to be a certain level of accountability, curious what accountability looks like in your business and how you sort of manage keeping people honest about doing the right thing themselves as well as part of your team.
Yeah. So accountability is something that I've struggled with over the years. Is how do I keep somebody, hold them accountable, and realize that we're not in the military. I can't just yell at you and you understand, what I'm trying to say. I have to come about it a different way. And I'm usually a really direct person, and I don't like to just beat around the bush. And it's not necessarily, it doesn't come natural to me. It's just natural just to tell you, hey, look, you're doing this wrong in this way, or we got to fix this. So accountability is something I struggle with, but we try to just set standards. We put standards in place. That way, when they're not hitting the standard, it's an easy conversation. They already know. Okay, cool. I missed my goal, or I missed the minimum this month. Here's what could happen. Or I'm not on the phone enough. I don't have enough talk time. Here's what can happen. And they're going to pull me off of these calls. They're going to pull me off mail calls. So I'm big on having a written expectation or a standard in place. That way it's not a surprising conversation. They already know it's written on the wall, right? They can see, they understand. So yeah, accountability is tough, but we just set standards and hold them to the standard.
Yeah. I love that you're like, hey, look, it's not the military. I don't own them in that way that it could just be you're doing this no matter what, or you're getting court-martialed. It's no, this person has the freedom to walk. And so you want to keep that relationship. We always say keying into people's goals and what they want is one of the best ways to motivate them. You don't want to do it in a sense of a narcissistic or gaslighting type of an approach, right? Or a manipulative approach. But if you honestly just take a look at I'm building a relationship with Johnny, and I understand that Johnny wants to achieve X, Y, and Z. And the whole reason he's pumped to work for me is uncapped commission, great culture, mentorship from a leader that's going to help him grow into a career. And you're having an off time. You've got to at some point circle back to how it affects them, and that you want them to be successful in reaching their goals. Because it's no longer just you got this team. And if their goals align with your goals and they could be successful, then you'll be successful as well. So it's definitely an interesting game of motivating people through what they want versus what you want. And from my days at Grant, they brought in a leadership trainer called Dave Anderson, and he was a leadership trainer in the auto space. And he said, keep accountability simple. Treat it like you would with a kid. With a kid, you set an expectation and you lay out the consequences if they don't reach that expectation. And that is the definition of accountability. If you're setting an expectation for your team, but there's no consequence, what's to keep them from doing it or not doing it? And then to the same, if you have consequences with no expectation, that's just the owner who screams when things aren't going their way, but they never laid out a clear expectation of, I wanted 3 hours of talk time a day. I wanted you to get 8 quotes. I wanted you to show up on time to work. So it's the combination of those two makes it a much easier conversation, because it's like, look, we talked about this. We sat down last week. We both agreed on paper that you would hit 3 hours of talk time a day, every single day. That's something you can control. I'm not asking for a certain number of quotes or policies right now. I just want you to put in the work. And it looks like we've been sitting at about 2 hours a day, right? The next time this happens, per our policy, it's going to be a formal write-up. And the, time after that is termination. Now, I don't want you to be there. You don't want to be there. We just want to win, right? And the 3 hours is so that you can win. And sometimes like you can use those opportunities then to be like, yes, like if this doesn't change, there is a consequence, but at the same time, like, let's figure this out together. And I think if you take that approach of like, let's figure this out together. I'm on your side. I'm here to help you reach your goals. But by the way, like there are consequences. Your consequence is what? If you're not successful, you go belly up. Like your consequences are much greater than the risk that they carry. So it's not like you don't live with that every day too,
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I've had expectations in place before without consequences. And I had a team member one day ask me like, well, what happens if I just don't want to do that? I'm like, well, you're right. I guess I need to put some consequences in place. So yeah. I'm
going to be really mad.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be really mad. And well, I don't care.
Yeah. They don't need to manage your emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then another piece I want to dive into is just the faith side of the business, right? And like for me, faith in business is such a different experience in a business when really you're walking with purpose and you're inviting God into the conversation. I'm kind of curious if you've got any testimony about maybe a moment or two in your business so far where, maybe the spreadsheets and the numbers and everything were all pointed in the wrong direction. Maybe from an evidence standpoint, it seemed like, oh man, we're at the end of a very hard road and we're going to crash. But maybe where like a biblical principle or faith or prayer or, your relationship there, like totally overruled logic and you found yourself like in a much better situation. But it's one where you could say without a doubt, like, no, that was because of faith and had nothing to do with like crunching numbers in a perfect way. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I try to like, kind of like you said, I try to just invite God in my whole business, in my life. I wouldn't say I have like a defining moment, where I was like, I said this one prayer and then, all my dreams came true. But whenever we're having a bad month or something, or we're struggling, it can be really tempting to cut a corner to make a profit. But I know ultimately that I have to answer to God now, in the now, and one day I'm going to stand before him and give an answer for every decision that I've ever made. So my whole business, we run with integrity and we strive to honor and glorify him in everything that we do. So ultimately I know that he's in control and he's going to provide. So I'm going to work as hard as I can. And at the end of the day, he continues to provide for me, we have terrible months sometimes. And I'm like, what in the world, are we going to do? And he provides. So I try not to, stress about the bad months or the bad team members, because again, ultimately, like he's in control and he's gonna provide for me, and that's gonna allow me to continue to provide for my team and my spouse and all the things that come along with that.
And that's such a refreshing thing to hear, because it's like, to your point, it's not like I said this one prayer and then like the sky opened up, because like maybe the outcome that you want isn't the right outcome for you. It's just your worldly view of what you think is going to make you happy or make you successful or help you take care of your team and family. But God's got like a different way of providing. And I love that you're just like, it's almost like a piece, right? You're like, got to put in the reps, got to put in the work, but like we do it in faith and we know that we'll be provided for. I just think that's such a different culture, right? And that whole mindset in general. So that's awesome. And I'm sure like at this point, you've probably picked up, thousands of pieces of your own wins and testimonies. And it's probably in like little things too, right? It's not always big monumental things. It's more of like the flow of how things go, or that one customer that popped in at the right time and became a connection, or maybe even serving people in a way that has nothing to do with you making more profit, but it's just like being able to serve the community from your business and have a greater purpose. So it's cool to see you being like unapologetic about it,
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's like his will be done, not mine. And if I can align my will with his, then like we're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Man, that's awesome. And one of the things I'm also curious about is like if you have any non-negotiables or rituals or like just
Sure.
principles that you sort of like have in the back of your mind that keeps like your family rhythm intact during, during the seasons where you also have a lot on your plate with the business and you've got to, quote unquote grind.
Yeah.
How do you sort of keep the whole thing intact to where like the family is never on the back burner and you're able to like keep things
Sure.
in balance?
Yeah. So big one is communication. My wife and I over communicate to each other. And so communication is always key. The second thing that I would say that we do, and we're not perfect at this, but we strive to be, is we strive to have dinner with each other every single night. So we've got a new baby. She'll be 2 in August, and so no matter what time it is, sometimes I get home at 7 or 7:30 and she's still waiting on me so that we can have dinner together and just kind of debrief and hang out and talk. But while we're having dinner, we have a no phones rule. So we just take our phone, put it to the side. Again, we're not perfect on it. And so, but that's what we try to do. We'll just kind of look at each other like, oh, you know what? Okay, yeah, no phones. Let me put this down. The text can wait. The phone call can wait, whatever it is. And that helps us continue to communicate with each other. But I think it keeps us grounded in like a more routine aspect of just our day to day, because you can get lost in it. And, the next thing you know, you're living with a roommate and it doesn't even feel like your family. So that's where I don't want to be.
100%. I love that. I love the no phone rule, and I love the commitment to dinner. And it's like, I think we can almost zombify ourselves sometimes. We get
Yeah.
so hooked into, it's not just the business, right? It's like, to your point, like on the phone piece, it's the Facebook notification, it's the new email that came in. It's, well, let me just peek at my calendar and see what tomorrow looks like, right? And then you're living somewhere else than where your own 2 feet are, and with the person that you're like probably putting in most of the work to provide for and support anyway, the most important piece. I love that. That's an awesome role. I get it. We should see. I hope my wife heard that. She probably did. It might be something new we're going to do as well.
That's awesome.
That's smart. Cool. I want to keep this thing fresh, and switch through some different areas, because I wrote down quite a few things I wanted to learn from you, and I want to give you a scenario. Okay, here's the scenario. I call you up and I'm like, hey, Josh, I've got a good friend. Her name's Sarah. She's an agent in Ohio. She's stuck at 1.5 million in premium. She's been kind of just sitting there, not really growing, sort of stagnant. She's got a CSR. She's got a couple producers, and she's just not in a position where she's good. She needs to figure out how to break out of this plateau and keep growing, or she's going to be out of business in the next year or less. How do you, and let's just say you're like, okay, yeah, I'll give her a call. How are you diagnosing that situation? If you just walk in and you're trying to pinpoint, hey, where are the first like 1 or 2 areas I got to know to be able to help this agent? Where do you normally look first?
Yeah. Well, first I would tell her, you got to pick your hard. Like, choose your hard. It's hard to be at $1.5 million in premium because you don't have very much cash flow, but then it's also going to be hard to get out of that. So pick which one it is and then make your mind up and jump 2 feet in. And so, I would just ask her, like, again, I would go back to what's your monthly goal? Let's just make this a math problem. If your goal, if you need this much money to run the agency, okay, let's figure out how to get you there. And then let's start taking bites out of that math problem and take massive action to get you where you actually need to be. Or go the opposite way and figure out a way out. But either way, go with 2 feet in. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You got to either be 2 feet out or 2 feet in, and then make your mind up and go for it. I was just talking to an agent recently, a buddy of mine, kind of telling him the same thing. Like, hey man, you either got to go really hard and jump all the way in to get past the hump, or get out. Take the money and put it in your account and like go do something else. So at least you have some money from it and you have some experience.
Absolutely. No, that's just the hard truth to it, right? Go
Sure.
all in on something. You're either all in or just get out, go do something else. That's fine too. And that is an answer for some people. And KPI wise, like when you talk about taking bites out of the math, right? I love that. Math means you've got a plan in place. It means that you're going to gear and engineer your systems to hopefully hit the right numbers.
Yep.
So what are typically the top line KPIs that you're looking at when you're taking bites out of that math equation, as you say?
Yeah. So for me, it's like quotes. There's a number of quotes per day. How many quotes do I need per day per producer to hit that goal? And then we try to back into that. So I know you know Ryan Cheo, but he's the guy who really helped me understand that. And so I want to make sure I give credit when it's due. He's leveled me up multiple times. Also, he owns Easy Mail with me, but he's helped me understand the numbers behind most things. And so it always comes down to, hey, how many quotes do you need? Okay, good. Let's spend the money to get those quotes. So the KPIs I check maybe every morning. I use the Humble 100 for quote logs and sales and all those things. So it's in real time. I can usually check it at the end of the day, but let's just say, the next morning, I'm looking to see what our quotes were from the day prior, what we're trending for in items. And then I'm also looking at talk time. You've got to be quoting insurance to sell insurance. You've got to be talking about insurance to sell insurance. Those are like the two main things. Everything else kind of works itself out. You can get into like the data analytics and zip codes and lead sources and all that too. But if you're just looking for sales, you got to quote people and you got to be on the phone talking to them.
Beautiful. Yep. Yeah, my first mega large agent I met with, I asked him like, what's the one piece of advice you'd give me if I wanted to come in and be like a top producer? He's like, just the more time you spend talking to people, the more you sell. And I was like, that's it. Like from your mind of that large of an agency, that's it. He's like, that's it, man. Like literally, that's the game. So I love that. I'm hearing similar things from you. What do you think are maybe some of the most overrated closing lines and verbiage that makes you almost gag when you hear it on a call recording from a salesperson, like just in like branding yourself and setting your team apart? Like, I'm curious what things maybe you hear where you're like, no, not generic sales lines, not a generic closing line. And I know I'm kind of switching gears on you a lot today, but it's one thing I'd written down. I wanted to kind of find out from you.
No, yeah, you're good. I would say an overrated closing line, I would say just really to not ask for the sale, or to think like, oh, this person, we built such great rapport. Like they're going to call me back. Like they'll call me back. They're not going to call you back. More than likely, they're not going to call you back. You're probably not going to get them back on the phone. So close the deal when you can, overcome whatever objections that you can. But I wouldn't say I have like an overrated closing line, like an offensive closing line. It would be more, don't trust that they're going to call you back. And don't let them off the phone. You've got the bird in hand, man. You take it.
Love that. No, I actually love your answer a lot. It's like, hey, like I'd probably rather hear a cheesy closing line than no close line at all. It's like, go for the business. You've got them.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. So looking at as well, kind of the back end, the system side, another area I wanted to ask you, and I'll ask it this way rather than like, hey, what's your best piece of tech? If somebody came to you today and said, hey, you got to get rid of every piece of technology, every software, everything you got in your business, but you can keep one. And assuming I know tech works together, so you might be like, well, if you get rid of this, then that won't work. Just forget that rule for a minute. But if it were just one core technology, whether it be marketing related, CRM related, whatever, what's the one piece of tech that you fight tooth and nail to keep?
Other than like voice over IP phones,
other than that
technology. I would say the Humble 100. So again, another shout out to Ryan. The Humble 100 is it. I mean, it's a quote log. It's real-time quote log, sales, item tracker, data analytics. I mean, you can look at which lead source is performing in which zip code. Also by, if I've got, Sally has quoted this lead source so many times in this one zip code, I know that she's going to close this at 18%. I don't know of any other CRMs, if you want to call it a CRM. I don't know any others that are out there. I know there's Performology, which is great. I haven't really checked it out in depth, but the Humble 100 all day long. It's got everything that you need.
Awesome. We'll drop a link for that in the chat out on the live replay as well.
And I don't get paid for that, by the way. I need to like nudge Ryan. But I don't get paid for that. That's just off the cuff. It's great, man. I've been using it for a few years.
Awesome. I've heard that several times now. So cool. We'll definitely drop that link into the chat. I think I can go find that.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then another thing I'd be curious about is start of day sort of tonality in the office. And I don't know, like for you, if you could maybe break down if you're 100% local, if you're a virtual office, if you have some remote and some local, and then, what maybe some of the daily routines are to get everybody kind of focused and down to business. And if you do have a daily routine, or if it's more like do your own thing and we meet once a week, or what that looks like.
Yeah. So for a while, I was doing everything. I was the sales manager, the agency owner, all of the other little things. I just developed and still developing, but put in place some managers. But our daily routine is, well, first, let me say that we're 100% remote. I've got a couple guys. Yep. I've got a couple guys that are in Georgia, and we kind of rotate throughout the office every now and then just to get some FaceTime with each other. But everybody else, if you're out of the state, cool. We encourage you to work remote. And so 100% remote. And then we do a morning check-in from 8:30 to 9. And just to kind of get the blood pumping, we role play. And I'm a big supporter of practice should be harder than the game. So we role play, and I tell my sales manager, I'm like, dude, strike some anxiety. Like, get their blood pumping, get their heart racing, get their palms sweaty. Like, this should be a really hard role play. Maybe you're the grumpy old guy that, doesn't want to talk to anybody, or maybe you're just that strict price focused. I don't care about anything that you have to say. You're not going to sell me person, and overcome those objections. We try to overcome 3 objections every single morning, and then dive right back into the close. And so I think that's really what gets us amped up and ready to go, like, for the day. And so we do that. We role play every single day.
Man, I love to hear that. I'm surprised at how seldom I hear that anymore. Like, I'm always like, do you guys role play every day? And how many offices say no? Like, blows my mind, because when I first walked into role play, I was in a setting where it was very uncomfortable on purpose. It was very much like anxiety provoking, hardest call you're going to get all day. Yes. But then when you start to realize, like, actually that made my first hour of the day so much easier. That got me to my first appointment, so much faster. You start to realize, like, it definitely tees you up for a much more successful day. And it's kind of like the difference between waking up at, 8:57 in the morning, rolling out of bed and driving to work with your just feeling like junky, like I didn't even have time to like sort my brain out, compared to the person that wakes up at 5 and they're worked out and showered and they're ready to go and they're organized. They had a meeting with themselves. They did some prayer. And so, like, walking into your day with that role play, I love that you do that. And do you tell people up front when they're like interviewing with you, like that's part of the business, or do you kind of like role play with candidates?
Oh yeah. We role play in our interviews.
Awesome. So you can see if they're like, I'm not doing this. You're like, well, look, like, can be on my team, because like
we've never had anybody like say like, I'm not doing this. But we've had people like try to bail out, like, oh, I'm really, really bad at this. We're like, okay, well, give it your best. And you can kind of see like their face goes white. It's kind of funny, but yeah, we let everybody know, hey, we role play every single day because we're trying to get better every day.
I love that. Now, other than them being highly uncomfortable and not really wanting to role play, even if they'll do it, like, what other red flags do you typically look for when you're vetting candidates that might be a big red flag where you're like, nope, no thanks?
Yes. It's all for us. Like, it's all about mindset. We can teach insurance and we can teach sales, but if you have a victim mentality and a closed mindset and you're not trying to grow, there could be tons of green flags. And that one red flag, we're like, no way. Like, they're not going to buy in. It's going to be a constant struggle. They don't want to be coached. It's always my fault. Like, okay, that's just not going to work. So it's not perfect. We've hired people with terrible mindsets. There's also what I would call a professional interviewer out there. So we try our hardest to just find that mindset first, and then disqualify them and get them on their way into their next agency somewhere else.
That's beautiful. And I think Ryan as well, he's 100% remote team too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I learned a lot from Ryan. I worked in his agency for about 90 days or so as we were kind of launching our mail company. And so a lot of what we do now came from Ryan. I've put my own twist on it, but yeah, he's 100% remote too.
Wow. Yeah. Whenever I hear like that doesn't work, I just think about guys like you, I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Yep. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I actually think it's a huge superpower. Like you're like, hey, we welcome to work remote. We can hire them out of state. Like now when you need to go find a killer, somebody who's going to come in and crush numbers and be the right mental fit and all that, like
Yeah.
you're not limited to, well, I guess this is what we get because we're hiring 5 minutes from our office. So it's a huge superpower if you could just dive in.
Yeah.
Probably to
Yeah.
your same point of like diving in with both feet. Like if you're going to do it, just dive in or contact guys like Josh or Ryan or others and just be like, I'm sure they'd give you a few minutes if you were like, hey, I've never hired remote, like talk me into it. Probably in 5 minutes, either one of these guys could get you in the right mindset.
Absolutely. I give you more than 5 minutes for sure.
100%. And then you mentioned management, right? Like having sales managers in place. Like when did you realize that you needed that layer in your business and how did you kind of like create that role?
Yeah. So I've always wanted management. I haven't always loved working in the business every single day. I've always wanted to work on it. And so a mentor told me within my first like 6 months, I was telling him, man, I really want a manager, but I don't think I can afford it. And he was like, you can afford whatever you want. Again, just make your mind up and go for it. If you want a manager, put a manager in place. You'll figure out a way to make it happen, to cover the salary. You'll figure it out. Just make your mind up. And I was like, okay, I guess, that makes sense. But then I thought you still had to be, 8, 10, 12, 20 million in premium to justify a manager. And I'm finding out it's just simply not true. So we purchased a book in May, and I put 2 managers in place in March and tried to develop them early. And my thought was, and I didn't think anybody was doing this. I still don't think anybody is because I see why. But my thought was, all right, I'm gonna grow a big sales team. We're gonna get to 10, and I'm gonna split them in half. And I'm gonna have I'm gonna have 2 sales managers, and they're gonna be in charge of each team. And I'm gonna pin the teams against each other, and it's gonna be hyper competitive. And each one will get bonus or they'll not get bonus. It'll make it even more competitive. And so as I was like trying to develop them for those roles, there was operations and sales manager mixed in. And so one of them steered more towards the sales manager stuff. He didn't like to do the operations, the data, talking to the lead vendors. And then the other guy loved doing it. He loved Excel. He loved building relationships with vendors and looking at zip codes. And so I was like, okay, in my head, I'm like, I just got to develop those weaknesses and then they'll both be strong. And then shout out to Andrew Filer, his newsletter. I was reading it one day, and this is probably in May or April. And he's like, man, I just want to, I want to thank my sales coach, my operations manager, and my sales manager. And I'm like, man, he's got a lot of managers. And it was like, it kind of dawned on me. And I was like, wait a second. I probably need to stop having these guys do the exact same job. And I need to let them go into their like prospective roles where they're already strong. So I just implemented that again a couple months ago, and they're doing great. We're still learning. They're still finding their strengths, but they're crushing it. And so I'm happy to have those guys. I love developing people. I love developing leaders. So it's exciting to have both of them just rocking and rolling every day.
Yeah, thank you for like breaking down the story as well. And like I'm with you on the whole get the 2 teams, have 2 do-it-all managers sort of lead their team, like Survivor or Squid Games. Like I actually love that. I think that would be really fun. And maybe that's something that you can still grow into in some form or fashion or some different iteration of it. But man, what a good realization as well that like, hey, I'm going to let them play to their strengths and like segment it out that way instead. So it's really cool to hear that story. Just that's leadership in action, and that's like you summarized it in 2 minutes, but I'm sure there were many weeks or months involved in like experiencing that and then like coming to that conclusion.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's good stuff. And then what, like your next goal, I don't know if it's 10 million, 15 million, 50 million, right? But what are like the levers that you're looking to pull on the hardest over the next 6 to 12 months to keep that growth trajectory?
Yeah. The one with the lowest cost per item, which I think is going to be, I think is going to be social media. I don't know if you know Nick Saka, but he's in Nevada. He crushes it with social media. I'm in his like community masterclass, and I've played with it. And then as I was on a really good roll, and then this book kind of fell into my lap, and I was like, oh man, okay, social media has to go back burner. I can get back to it. We got to buy this book. I got to develop these guys. I got to create these processes, and so I would say social media it would be my next focus. Facebook's free, Instagram's free. You don't have to pay for ads. You can, and that's cool, but you don't have to. You just build a personal brand, and then people end up coming to you. Just the few videos that I made, I think we wrote like 8 items or so over just a few months of just putting out some silly videos, some insurance related videos, and a couple posts. So I'm like, man, if I can just dive into it and be as consistent as I want to be, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's cool to see Nick's success with that. And like now, you know, he's taken off on certain channels where he's getting millions of views per video and things like that, like opening up other business partnerships and all these different lines. So I love hearing that. And last piece on the strategy side, is there any conversation internally or curiosity, or maybe you've already made moves on how to integrate artificial intelligence into the business?
Yeah, no. So I use ChatGPT daily. How to integrate it? There's like a fine line, I think, somewhere with compliance being captive. So I haven't jumped into it as much as I want to. I use it just in our process creation and social media and things like that. But how to actually implement it into the business day to day, I don't have a clue yet. I don't have a clue. I know there's like answering services out there or AI that can make phone calls for you. But I would just have to dive into the compliance aspect. Like I don't want to, potentially lose the agency over something, over
let a robot go do something crazy they're not supposed to do and then shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be an interesting, I know it's going to get so much faster over the next 6 to 12 months. It's just it's going to be in hyperspeed, because now you've got not just generative AI where you're basically like prompting it, do this for me, do that. But now you've got AI that can, loop back and build on itself. Like I was looking last night, you can actually build a prompt and control a whole API build out of like a prospecting sequence for referral partners. And it'll not only program the software for you, it'll link up all the external services to do it. It'll check off on compliance and opt-ins. It'll do everything like ground up just from an idea. So I'm starting to look at this going like, yeah, like I think just like what you're doing, right? Being involved with it, using it when you can, being curious about it. Because by the time that big tools come around, there's something where it's like, yeah, you can tack on this AI agent and they'll go make calls for you in a compliant fashion. If you've already been a student of the game, it'll be so much easier for you to implement something like that in instead of 5 years later or something.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say like I'm trying to like stay up on it. Like I want to be using it and not, I don't want it to be like, I don't know, maybe the internet was, when it first came out and everybody's scared of it and all those things. Like I'm not scared of it. Like it's technology, whatever. It's not going anywhere. But yeah, I don't have any plans yet.
Yeah. Cool. We'll all be tracking that, whether we like it or not. It's going to be a part of our life. I'm pumped for it. It'll be really interesting to see what impact it has in the insurance space and elsewhere. Oh, yeah. But as we kind of come to a close, one final question was, I don't know if you operate with like, hey, I've got like one core principle, whether it's a verse, a faith-based principle or a quote, but I'd be curious for you, like if you were to go back and say like, this is something I can always go back on, maybe something you circle back on frequently that motivates you or lifts you up or keeps you focused on the main thing. Like what's sort of that mantra that lives in your head from time to time?
So it's a verse. It's Colossians 3:23. So whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for man. So again, as long as I know that I'm working hard and that I'm working hard as if I'm working directly for God, like he'll take care of the rest. I don't really have to stress about it. And like you said earlier, like you just have this peace. Like there's some times of anxiety, but overall, like, okay, he's going to provide, he's going to take care of it. Like you don't have to lose a bunch of sleep over it. Not saying I don't lose sleep, but you don't, you don't have to stay up at night trying to, do every single thing. He's going to take care of some things.
Beautiful. I love that. So, yeah. That's extremely powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And then when we kind of get, towards the end like this, one of the things I'd love to do, if you're cool with it, is I'd love if you could drop out maybe best ways for anybody who wants to get linked up with you. Either if it's like hey, I'm a hungry growing agent that's progressive like you, and I want to buddy up with you and see what we can brainstorm together. Or if it's somebody who's interested in getting involved in like the Humble 100 or Easy Mail or anything that you're involved in, what's the best way for people to like reach out, get to know Josh Linderman?
The easiest way is Messenger. If you don't have my direct cell phone number, I would say call me. But the easiest way is Messenger. Just add me as a friend and then shoot me a message. And I mean, I'm in there all day long. I've got my notifications on, so yeah, I'm happy to help in any way if I can point you in whatever direction. But yeah, shoot me a message, or you can email me, josh@lindermanagency.com. There's an email. But yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm an open book.
Awesome. And then we go from 0 to 100 in the last minute of the show with a heavy hitting question. And it's a final one for today. And that is, and I know you're going to be like, man, this is like out of the blue, but it's how we roll here. If you woke up tomorrow and like we're told with truth, you have a couple of days to live and that's it, man. Like you're going on to the next phase in life, but your earthly journey is like over in a couple of days. So you're hit with that, right? What is it that you would want to have left behind, legacy-wise, impact-wise, whether it be on your family, your friends, the community, whatever, that really kind of defines what impact or imprint that you wanted to have while you were here?
I love this question, and I love questions like this. My operations manager, he's like my best friend too. We're always just spitballing questions like this, or would you rather have this? I would say just the gospel, like, is what I would want to leave behind. Like, I don't really care personally about any of this stuff. I love it. It's fun. It's a challenge. But like leaving behind the gospel and that legacy, that you should be Christ focused and that he lived a perfect life and he died for you. And if you have faith and repentance, if you have faith in him and you repent, that you can live after this life too. Like, that's all that I want to leave behind. That's all that I really care about. So that would be it. I don't know if you wanted to go there or not, but yeah, that's it. I don't care about any of this when it really comes down to it.
I know I'm glad we went there, and I appreciate you, and just in the mere fact that was your answer, right? Like really holds true to your answer, ironically enough. And I appreciate that big time, man. Thank you for being, open with it. And for us, like we always say, like, we're in a world right now where you can't hide behind rocks. Like, you actually need to be more unapologetic and open and faith driven and unapologetic about it in general. And that's, I think, truth comes in short sentences, and people, it'll fall in the right ears. So I appreciate that, man. That's an incredible answer. And you were able to drop some of that legacy here today throughout the show as well, man. So you're living into it, and I appreciate you for that. Yeah. And just congratulations to you. I know that your journey's not done in the insurance space, and you've got, I'm sure, bigger goals than anybody can even realize and things like that. But I love that you're doing it from a faith-based perspective and leading people and being smart with your business and all of this. So it's just awesome to see success stories like you, and also just exciting to see what you're going to continue to build. So for everybody joining us, whether you were here live or whether you were here, on a replay, make sure you reach out to Josh and give him some love for how much value he was able to drop in. He, was not paid to be here. He came with his time, volunteered, said, I would, bring value to you guys, and what's helped him climb from, nothing to one of the fastest growing agencies in the country in a very short window of time. So it's super exciting stuff. And next week, we're going to be back again with another exciting guest at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. But in the meantime, thank you guys for joining us again. Josh, thank you again so much for being here. And you guys have a great rest of your week.